In this tutorial, we will talk about data, how data is organized in datasets, and we will also talk about the dataset that we are going to use in this tutorial. Then, in the practical part, we will start Tableau for the first time, load some data into Tableau and create our first bar chart, and finally save the Tableau workbook. Data is derived from the Latin word data, which is the plural of datum, a given thing. There is a definition by the Australian Bureau of Statistics that says data are a set of values of qualitative or quantitative variables about one or more persons or objects, while a datum is a single value of a single variable. In common speech, data is often used in its singular form as a mass noun, like sand or rain, but in the scientific field, data is used in the plural form. There are different types of datasets that you can have. The most common dataset that is available is definitely organized as table, but there is also other sources. Datasets can also be networks, graphs, or even trees. You can find data in text or log files. You can just have data that is in individual fields, given a form on a website or even a form that you manually fill out. And there is also a difference between static files, where you have like an Excel sheet where the data is located in, versus a dynamic stream of constantly updating and new data that is coming in. So in this tutorial, we will only be dealing with tables, and we will be using a static file for that, which is the most easy version. Data in tables is organized in such a fashion that each data item is in a new row, and each column contains a single attribute. If I show you a piece of data, and I don't give you any context for it, I'm pretty sure that you cannot really see what's going on there. We're seeing, for example, the number 32, and we don't know what this number stands for. This could be an ID, this could even be a name or a category, that could be an age, it could be a length. We simply don't know from this. Then we see a datum that looks like day, and we see I and medium box. Those are both texts, but we don't know what that is. Medium box could be anything, could be a name, could be a category, could even be ordinal, because we have medium, that could be small and large as well, then it would be ordinal. So let me give you a little more information. Now it becomes more clear. We do have an order ID, we have an order date, we actually have a product container, which is medium box. But we still don't see the big picture. So let me show you all of the dataset. In this, now we can see that order ID is not unique. So every line is not necessarily just a single order, but is actually an item within an order. So if we look at that, we can see that there is multiple occurrences of the number 32, which means there is multiple items in that order with the ID 32. And these items have even different shipping dates. Every row in this is a record or an item, in this case, and every field is a dimension or an attribute. That's the column space. We also have a differentiation between quantitative data, nominal data, and ordinal data. In this case, order is nominal because it says to which order this item belongs to. But usually, and also in Tableau, it does not recognize that this is a nominal attribute, So therefore we have to specify this ourselves. Tableau will initially think that an order ID would be the same with a length. And then we have the order date, the product base margin, and the shipping date, which is a quantitative information, as well as some ordinal information in the priority and the product container. The dataset that we are going to be using for this tutorial is a dataset that we specifically built for this. It is made from 4 different sources that are the happiness dataset, the World Factbook by the CIA, the Human Development Index, and the Inequality Human Development Index. We built this from data from 2017, which is the last data where we could find all the different datasets from the same year. And you can find it under the download link that is given here. And there is also a description on the GitHub page where you can find what the individual values of the dataset are. Some of those values I will shortly explain, that you know what we're dealing with. So basically it is a dataset made up of countries, and each country has a bunch of different categories, a bunch of different attributes. One of the attributes that we're dealing with is the happiness score, which is simply calculated by asking people in a country, how would you rate your happiness on a scale from 0 to 10, where 10 is the happiest, and then you take the average of all responses that you get in a country. Another thing that we added from the CIA dataset is the biggest official language. This is done in such a fashion that it has to be an official language in that country, and it has the most speakers within the country to be the biggest official language. So multiple languages are ignored in that case. The Human Development Index, that's a composite index measuring achievement in 3 basic dimensions of human development, whether you live a long and healthy life, the knowledge that you can gather, and a decent standard of living. And there is also the link provided where you can find the technical notes on how they actually calculate that. And another thing that I want to highlight is the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient is an index that measures the degree of inequality in the distribution of income in the country. So there is a measure from 0 to 100, where 100 means it's perfectly unequal. The family that earns the least money is completely different from the family that earns the most money. And 0 would mean perfect equality, everybody earns the same. But now let us look at the dataset in Tableau. When we open up Tableau, the first thing that we see on the left here is that we can connect to a file. There is different options, but we are going to choose text file. And this text file, we are choosing the happiness development CSV that you just downloaded from the website. We are immediately taken into this view where you can see all the different fields of the dataset. So here you have your CSV file that you just imported. A thing that is very important, as soon as you import it, you want to set the properties correctly. It tries to auto-detect the properties, but this often fails. So in our case, the field separator here is a comma. Text qualifier is automatic, that is okay. Character set UTF-8 is also true, but the locale is for this dataset, since it's made from English sources, would be English United States. This is a very common error to do, to not set the locale properly, and then the data is read in a fashion that doesn't fit the dataset. Here we can see an overview of the dataset. And if we scroll to the right, we see all the different fields in our dataset. And the first thing that we see is here on top, there is an option to select what this data is. In this case, since this is the happiness rank, our data is a number whole, and it auto-detected this. The happiness score, that's a decimal number. We also have some strings This the map reference would be a string in this sense. And there's also other options like date and time, simple date, or a Boolean value, which is simply true or false. If some of the fields don't match what you're expecting versus what Tableau detects, you can easily just click here and then change the type of the field. But at a quick glance, looking over it, everything seems to be detected properly. The country field has been edited in such a fashion that Tableau auto-detects those countries. This has been done manually by us because the different sources that we were using for this dataset used different names for countries. For example, the UN used State of Palestine versus the CIA dataset used Occupied Palestinian Territory. And in order for Tableau to auto-detect it, we changed the names in such a fashion that Tableau detects this as a geographic string. And we will make use of this when we do a map visualization. Now let us start building our first visualization. Tableau already prepared our first sheet, so all the different sheets and dashboards that you're going to create are down here in the bottom. They will extend over this bottom row, and this button here is add a new sheet. This adds a new dashboard, but right now we're just going to use the sheet provided by Tableau. And for our first visualization, it's a very easy one. We just take the country and put it into the rows. And then we take the happiness score and put it into our columns section. And you immediately see a visualization of all the different countries and their happiness score. But this is not very easy to understand because it's not ordered. So if we hover on top of this country section here, we can click on this button and then it is ordered in descending value. So here we have the happiest country, which is Norway. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, Central African Republic is the least happy country in this data set. Finally, if we right click on this sheet name, we have an option to rename that sheet. Let's just name it happiness by country. You can see that the sheet name is also updated up here. And finally, we want to save and export our file. The save button is here. And we can choose a name for this. And there is two different options. You can either choose to save it as Tableau workbook or as Tableau packaged workbook. And the difference between a workbook and a packaged workbook is that the data in the package is included in the packaged workbook. So whenever we want to save our test data and the workbook for this tutorial, we're going to be using the packaged workbook because then the data source is already included in the saved file. You just hit save, and that's it. You just built your first Tableau visualization.